thought is weak. So when you get caught thinking about a certain thought and you cannot shift away, because you have what they call thought flexibility, and then you have thought unflexibility. And thought flexibility is when you're able to consciously shift your thought focus at will. But thought unflexibility is when your thought is dwelling on one concept, one thought, one memory. And when you go into this deep negative state of overthinking your thinking, then you're allowing negative, unwanted thoughts to constantly play within a recycling loop. And when it's replaying within a recycling loop, then it's constantly producing unwanted. So in other words, I'm going to just make it simple. When a person is fully present in the moment, he or she cannot experience no negative emotions. When a person experiences negative emotions, they're either living in the past or they're anticipating a negative future based upon a negative past traumatic experience. So what the brain does, the brain utilizes past data in order to compare new information that you experience right now in this second with old information in order to decide on how to make the most effective decision moving forward. So the brain is always utilizing past data. Now, thoughts are memories. So you can relive negative past memories or negative memories or positive memories. Now, if you dwell on your negative thinking and your thought focus is focused on so many different things and is scattered, then you lack thought focus for one, and then you're reliving negative past memories. Because when you're fully present, then you can only experience harmonious, positive energy, high vibrational energy. But you experience low vibrational energy when you're living in the past. Somebody commented subconscious programming. Yes, exactly. So when you first wake up, the first hour or two, so the brain is not fully active until like 10 o'clock. So like kids that start school at 8, they start way too early. So in other words, the brain is within an alpha wave state. And when a person is in worry or stress, their brain is in a beta wave state. And that's when the brain is reacting real fast. It's very alert. Now, when your brain is within a beta wave state, that's where fight or flight exists, worry, concentration, decision making, judgment, reasoning, or analyzing. That's the prefrontal cortex that deals with the beta wave frequency. But when a person is in a flow state and they move a certain way with their hands, they move a certain way just in a body expression, that's when a person is within an alpha wave state. And when you're in that alpha wave state, your prefrontal cortex temporarily deactivate. Now, your prefrontal cortex possess a lot of neural networks and a lot of neural connections that possess your self-image or your sense of self. So your sense of self, a lot of it exists in your prefrontal cortex. Now, when you're in that alpha wave state, then you're more calm, you're more relaxed, you're in your flow. So you move a certain way, you move with a certain flow, with a certain energy, and that's when a person is within an alpha wave state. So you want to make sure you're in an alpha wave state and not a beta wave state, because when you first wake up and before you go to sleep, your brain is within an alpha wave state. That's creative, free-flowing thoughts. That's when you have a lot of spiritual downloads when you're in that alpha wave state. Now, a baby between the age of a baby being born all the way up to the age of 7, a baby is within a alpha theta wave state, and that's more of a downloading and processing state of being. So like kids should not read until they're around 5 or 6, because the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. So like babies are meant to make a lot of mistakes between the age all the way up to like 5 and especially 6, because the prefrontal cortex for decision making or logical or being logical or critical in their thinking, because critical thinking is the detailed analyzation of a selective amount of ideas and concepts, and then choosing the most reasonable and effective concepts and ideas after you have a detailed analyzation. Now that's critical thinking. Now a baby's prefrontal cortex that deals with critical thinking is not developed until around 5 or 6. So that's one thing that you should keep in mind. Another thing is When you hold your thought focus towards one thing for 10 minutes, then you build up your mental strength. Even when you're walking, you don't want to walk and you don't want to just allow your body to guide you in any direction, to whereas you're walking on the sidewalk, but you may go to this side, go to that side, then go to this side. Like, you want to have a steady focus and you want to execute your goal and you want to create a systematic plan of action towards self-elevation, self-improvement, and self-expansion. So every person want to expand their level of joy, harmony, beauty in their life, in their reality. But the only way you can expand your beauty, your life, your joy, your magnificent, magical experiences in life is only by studying the spiritual message in everything that you think, everything that you hear, and everything that you say or someone else say. So in other words, everything is speaking to you. But if you choose to only see negative, then you will see negative. But if you choose to see the beauty or the spiritual message in everything, then you will receive the spiritual message. Because remember, it's a human way of thinking, but then there's the spiritual way of thinking. The spiritual way of thinking is looking at every situation with a spiritual lens and seeing things from a spiritual point of view. And when you see things from a spiritual point of view, then you allow yourself to so, in other words, I'm going to put it like this. You have the knower. And the knower is the experiencer experiencing the experience. So, you have the thinker. The thinker is in front of the knower, but the knower is behind the thinker. So, in other words, you are the observer observing the thinking, but you're not the thinking. You're the one behind the thinking, observing the thinking. You're the one listening to the thinking. So don't get too caught up with identifying what you're thinking or believing that you're every thought that you mentally think. So you want to allow yourself to take a step back and to become the observer. So in other words, if you're watching TV and you see like the subtitles at the bottom, you're not going to say that you're the subtitles. So even with your thinking is like the subtitles. You're the one watching the thinking. You're watching the thinking. You're listening to the thinking. So when you're listening to the thinking, you have to make sure that you don't identify with the thinking. See, the thinker is the one who doubts. The knower, the observer, the one observing the thinking is the one that knows, that doesn't doubt. So that's the part of you that receives the intellectual guidance from your heart, because the heart is the seat of the soul. The heart is the most electromagnetic organ within the body. When a baby is being created and developed within a mother's womb, then the first thing to be developed is the heart. The heart is more powerful. It's more electromagnetic than the brain. The heart actually sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So always follow your heart and trust in what you know and know what you know. When you know what you know, you don't have to question or second guess what you already know to be true. Now, when you get too caught up in thinking that you're thinking and believe in every thought that you mentally think, then you let go of what you know because you get the second guessing and overthinking what your heart already knows. So remember, you're the observer observing the thinking, but you're not the thinking. You're the one observing the thinking. You're listening to the thinking. Like, if I tell every thought that you think is like, oh, my day is going like this, my reality is going like this or like that, that's just you agreeing that that's your truth mentally. So your thoughts about reality is not reality. It's just a thought that you created about reality. So if I start to think like, man, my day gonna be this way, my day gonna be bad, is that true, or is it that I'm just thinking those thoughts and I'm believing those thoughts? So a lot of times when you think like, oh, this situation gonna work out like this, I ain't got the money to pay my bills, so this gonna happen, you're projecting a reality. You're sending that energy out, and any electromagnetic signal you mentally and emotionally send out into the atmosphere pulls back in the reality that reflects and matches that signal. So based upon what you think most consistently will determine what manifests and what synchronizes in your reality. Because your reality and what you synchronize is based upon what you consciously think. What you consciously think is programming your subconscious, and your subconscious is your super spiritual conscious, which is connected to the to the universal field, the unified conscious. So it's a universal energetic field that exists everywhere at once. Because remember, if there was once no existence, there'd be no existence to even come into existence. So therefore, existence always existed. So life is something that's everlasting, and life is somewhere. So in other words, we're connected to everything. So there's a universal conscious that we can pull from, because every thought that you think is not just your thought. Like if you get a creative idea, someone else on another side of the planet is probably having that same idea at the exact same time as you. For example, you can be thinking something. Somebody can say what you're thinking, and you know when somebody called you and you're like, I was just thinking about you. But see, the thing is when they was dialing your number, they was sending you the mental message. So you got the mental message before they even press call. So by the time they call you, you was like, oh, I was just thinking about you. That's because they mentally communicated with you first. So like even if you have kids, or even if you have your wife, your partner, your soulmate, y'all are in sync. So you can think of something, I can think of something, and my partner, she can do it. I don't have to tell her verbally, but she knows mentally. So they say in ancient times that we used to communicate non-verbally. And even until today, 80% to 85% of communication is nonverbal. So in other words, when we interact with a lot of people, we may pay attention to their eye movements, body language, how they express their hands, how they express themselves, their choice of words, what they choose to say versus what they choose not to say, their placements of words, you know. But then let me bring it back. What you consciously think is programming your subconscious. So your subconscious, let me slow down. Your conscious creates plans. It establishes goals, and it sends that message to your subconscious, and your subconscious executes that goal based upon the information that was sent from your conscious to your subconscious. Now the subconscious can be reprogrammed by habit, repetition, hypnosis, trauma, extreme events, and hemisync. And hemisync is when you synchronize both hemispheres of your brains together, and that's when you create whole brain function, and that's that genius brain. That's when you connect neural connections on this side of the brain. You connect it with the other side of your brain, and you create an information highway where information is being sent quicker than you can think. So like one cell can perform 100,000 actions within 1 second. Now, the only way that's possible is if a second to a cell is different from a second to us. So in other words, you can try to hit a fly, but what you may not understand is that a fly moves so fast that you moving is slow compared to how fast that it moves. So the same way as with your body, that your cells move so quick. Think of it this way. Your heart beat itself. You don't have to tell it to. If you get a cut, your body heal itself. You don't have to tell it to. So there's an unconscious higher aspect of you that is highly intelligent, that already knows the outcome, that already knows the future. So everything that takes place in the physical realm has already taken place in the spiritual realm. So time is delayed. So if you understand light frequency, then one thing you understand about light frequency is that light has to travel. And since light has to travel, your future reality or your future success, because remember, what's meant for you shall always be. Nothing or no one can come in between what's meant for you. So what's meant for you shall always be. So light, your success is already probably en route. It's already in motion. It's already traveling, coming towards you. But you're probably catching up to the reality that's already predestined. So in other words, and I'm going to stop saying in other words, but everything you think right now determines what takes place in the next 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 5 hours. So the future is built upon the past. So you know your future based upon your present. But if you're too busy anticipating a negative future, a future that doesn't even exist yet, then you're creating a negative reality. Because remember, negative thinking is when you're anticipating negative future outcomes. And trust is when you're anticipating positive future outcomes. So worry is when you expect the opposite. To worry is to lack trust in God. So what was I? So make sure you analyze your thinking about your thinking, and make sure you study your thoughts about your thoughts, and make sure you know why you think certain thoughts, and you want to backtrack the root cause of why certain thoughts surface. So like if I walk down the street and my mind get to automatically plan a certain thought about what if this person say that.